Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It's August 10th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and really good trading day today. You can see we had a really big bearish day. We actually traded way up here, made new highs, and then just reversed it. So it was a big downtrend all day long, really after the early rally. Turned out to be a very bearish day, and we did close below that support resistance line 2 days in a row. Can we push lower tomorrow? Notice we still didn't see what the low was there. 44.78 and a quarter. 44.70. So we did go a little lower today. So we went a little bit lower than yesterday. Didn't close lower, but we pushed lower and closed, still closed low, and did close below that support resistance line. So it pretty much is acting as resistance at the close. So you can see what it looks like here, really bearish. Let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart and we'll go through today's trade. So it was a big day today. As you can see, a big strong trend up, and then this thing just turned over and reversed, and boom, it was off to the races. Looked like we might bounce out of there again late this afternoon, but no such, we weren't able to do it, and then we tried to rally out of there again and still couldn't get anything. So lots of selling coming in. Anyway, let's zoom in here. You can clearly see the two trends up. Looked like we were just having a little correction here before we might go higher, but it just morphed into this huge sell-off here. So big two-tiered blue channel. But let's zoom in and we'll go through the trades, and we'll wrap this day and this week up. Today's Thursday, so no chart lesson on Friday. So we'll be back Monday. But this will wrap it up for the week for chart lessons. But anyway, the news came early here, so you really had to wait till after this news. So after 7:30, before you could really trade today. There's a higher low here. It's a possibility after two legs down. I'm not crazy about taking that trade. Maybe you take that. You're still a ways away from the EMA, and it is a higher low. I don't see anything else in here. You're getting too far away from the EMA. And then we turn back down. There is a second entry right here. And it's a fairly bearish bar. I didn't mark this one just because it looks a little congested, but there is room to get out. So, I should have probably at least made that green. And if you go lower, you might look for a second leg. And notice we made two perfect measured legs down. And so that sometimes that'll be the center of your pattern for this first leg, and you may get a second leg up here, which you can see that's right about where we found the resistance. So, but anyway, you got a trend down, you get a break. There is a second entry short there. It just kind of looks like a failed breakout of this little congestion. So the key is there enough room there? I didn't originally mark that. There's room, but it's real close. But there is room, so if you took that trade, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Then we make that measured leg down. We tried to go lower 3 times. Notice we got a triple test there. A nice signal bar. I like going long there. And boy, this thing takes off. You would have easily got a runner here. I don't see anything else here you could actually enter until you get a break here, but still no entry. And notice you got a little trend down, you get a close outside, and then you get a couple of legs down to a new low. The signal bar is no good there, but then you break lower and fail and turn up. That's a trap. Because that's kind of a no-bodied bar, I'd probably wait for this to close, but I still wouldn't have a problem going long right there. It confirms that trend line. You get a little double confirmation there. Take that trade. And again, it takes off, and you probably get another runner here. If you did take it on the engulfing bar, you definitely did. Runs up, starts chopping sideways back to the trend line. Generally, when you only go sideways on a correction, it means you got a pretty strong trend. You can see we still had some strength here. This is a second entry long, but it's really just a failed break out of the congestion. It bounces, and you can see we bounce off that trend line 3 more times. Plenty of room to get out. Go long right there. I don't like anything else up through here. You start sideways again, get a failed breakout, then you turn down. No entry there. And you would think we'd probably attempt to make a retest of the high here, but that doesn't happen. Notice that you confirm this trend line right here, but this trend line is confirmed right here, but that's just a first entry. So wait and see if you get a second entry, and you do. And look how good that signal bar looks. Go short there, and there's enough room to get out, and then it comes back, and then it gives you a triple test with another nice signal bar. Again, I like going short there. You may not could have got in that one because it gaps over and kind of takes off, but maybe you could. Drop a limit order in there if it goes too fast, and see if it'll come back and pick you up. And of course, we bounce off the lows, run right back to the tops. First entry, and then second entry, and that's nice small bar on at 5 ticks. You could use the 8 tick rule. Such a low risk after just coming off the upper side of that trend line that's obviously in play. I like going short there. I marked it green simply because we didn't make a new high there, but still one you might take. It's too good of a second entry with only 5 ticks of risk there. So then it bounces. You finally get a break. Try to go higher once, twice, and you get a first entry and second entry short. Now that signal bar is not good enough for a second entry, but the fact that you tried to go higher twice, if it breaks lower below those 2 bar matching lows, it's going to take off, and you can see it just went, and the bottom fell out of it. So that was a nice setup actually. There's actually a second entry short right here. It's similar to this. We didn't quite make a new high. Again, you might take that one. You might enter right there. So, but if you didn't enter there when it tried to go higher a third time and failed, it gives you that failure and another second entry short. Take that. There's another second entry short here, but you got to go short right into a little double bottom. And it looks like we're overshooting this channel here. So I'd be wary of that one. If you pull that on down, you can kind of see. But then it comes back and gives you a failed second entry long. Notice that first entry, second entry, and confirms that key entry point. Normally you'd want this to come down off the 21 bar EMA here, but because this thing has turned out so bearish and we're taking an even steeper move here, if it fails right there, you're going to at least get a scalp out of it, maybe more. Unfortunately, they get a little bit of hesitation here, so you don't get that big runner that you'd hope for, but there's still been plenty of other opportunities for runners today. So then we bounce off the low side of the channel. Actually, you probably wouldn't have this channel. I drew it off these first 2 swings here. First few swings, and just went to the lows here. And you're only assuming that's right, but you can see the midline and how it's playing there. It looks correct to me. But you've got this as your first break, and so, or I'm sorry, you got this as your channel coming down, and then that's the first break. Then you get a first entry, second entry. That signal bar is too neutral. I didn't like it. Maybe you take that, but it's just too neutral to me. I wouldn't risk that. And of course, she runs up and you get another two-legged correction, and it turns down. And of course, there's no setup up here, so too congested, not a good enough signal bar, and again the bottom drops out. But then notice you get a first entry, second entry, and normally I'd tell you don't go short right there, but this is a very strong downtrend, and every time it turns down, it's moving a good bit, so I'd probably risk that. It actually broke higher, so maybe you enter that on the engulfing bar to give yourself a little head start, but I wouldn't even be afraid to go short right there. Runs down to a new low and then bounces, close outside, new high, tries to go higher again, and when this creates a second entry right here, just go. I like going short right there. Actually, I would not go short right there. I like entering on the engulfing bar. I don't know which way it broke first. It doesn't really matter. When it came back, once it made that new high and it came back through and broke lower here, that's a second entry short. Now, if it broke lower first before it went higher, then your stop would go above this bar until this bar closed, and then you'd move it above that bar. That's how you have to play an engulfing bar, because you don't know where the high is going to be on an engulfing bar, and you might get stopped out. So it's better to risk the previous high than to let yourself get stopped out here and maybe find a good trade. And that would have, if you entered on the engulfing bar, you're safe there. I think there's even 6 ticks if you entered below that, but I'm not as crazy about entering below there. And you can see there's more than enough room there. There's 7 ticks. So again, I marked that one green because it's not ideal. We've already came off the low and we're trying to go higher here and just can't do it. And notice we finally do go higher, but it takes a little momentum. There's another second entry here, but actually technically it's not, because this is just a first entry and this just continues on. It never broke higher, so it didn't make a matching high, so it's really not. But it makes a low there, first entry, and then it comes back up, and again it makes a 2-bar matching high and a higher low, so that's a second entry short right there. I'd take it. This market's been too weak. Then we make this low. There's a triple test there, but I wouldn't go long in this market. It runs up, you get a close outside, and moves to a new high, and turns down right off that key entry point. This is basically just congestion here, so this is like a first leg, and then first entry, second entry. I think you can treat that like a second entry. It's a little more advanced, a little more convoluted for new traders. So, but being off that key entry point, if you see that right there, take that trade. It runs down, and then it tries to go higher once, and and then it opens back up lower here and tries to go higher again. Technically, that's just a first entry long and a first entry short, but as bearish as this market is and having just came off the highs, I just treat that like a lower high. Normally I would say that's moved too far to be a lower high, but this market's very bearish. Again, you may not have got in that trade. You might have had to try to use a limit order. I don't know if you'd even got filled on it, but it'd be worth trying. We move on down. We finally get a break. You get a first entry, second entry, and look at that bearish bar. Just go short right there. That's just a gimme. And there's 8 ticks there. So very low risk. Drops down, bounces around. It gives you another second entry. We did just bounce off the low side of the channel twice. So I'm not as crazy about going short right there on the second entry, but this market has been bearish. So maybe you risk it. There's enough room there to get a scalp, not much more, and then it bounces. And you get one leg up, first entry. Actually, there's a second entry short there because you get a first entry and then it turns back up and then comes back down. So that is a second entry short. I didn't like entering that one because it's congested. I think you needed to wait till we made a new high here as well, or attempted one, and it came up here. If you took this, it works. I wouldn't take it on the engulfing bar, and I'm not so crazy about going short right there because it could pull back quickly to test the EMA and might even go higher. It might move back to test that midline. It might even go all the way back since we just came off the low. We're expecting prices to come up here, so I'm not too crazy about that entry. But we drop on back down. First entry, second entry. So there's a failure there, but you're not really looking for a continuation pattern here. You want to see it off the trend line. So again, I didn't like that one. But notice we try to go higher. We do make a new high there. We try to go higher once, twice again. And really there's 2 legs back. So maybe you take that one. That's the first break of that channel. Again, I'm not crazy about going short. You can only go short. I'm not crazy about longs. I'm not really crazy about a continuation pattern after we just came off the low. So, I mean, this is risky. So I made it green. We just saw one work, so maybe the next one works. That's kind of what you're banking on there. Then we bounce. Again, you're not looking for any longs here. And we come right back up here to this key entry point and turn down off of it again. Unfortunately, you don't get a very good signal bar. It is only 6 ticks. Makes a 2-bar matching high. I mean, we do get a close and 2 legs up, and they're pretty much measured legs. Maybe not quite, but they're close enough. And so maybe, in this downtrend off a key entry point, maybe you risk that trade. I mean, I think it's 6 ticks. And you don't get any other chance to enter this. Drops down, get a break, a close outside of that, move to a new high. We keep trying to go higher and can't do it. And then you basically get just a chance to trade this little tight range with a 6 tick bar, and it ends up pushing on down there. Then you get a first entry, second entry. So second entry short right off the midline, lower high as well. I like going short there. And guess what? It doesn't run down here because we just came off there. It's just the selling so strong here that it finally musters up a little strength. But don't try to buy this. Notice you try to go higher 3 times and it breaks higher and fails. I mean, you can see we're still in this. You still got that resistance up there. So I like going short right there. First entry, first entry, first entry. And you can see we're just going sideways. Look how flat the EMA is getting. Then it bounces. We do get a close outside here, and you get a channel working up. A close outside the big blue channel coming down, but then we get a close outside the green, move to a new high, and you get this 2-bar matching high with this big bearish bar way away from the EMA. Maybe you trade that. Generally, you want to wait on a lower high. You can almost treat a double top like a lower high, but it's just a 2-bar matching high, so that's pushing it a little bit, but there's still reasons to consider that in such a strong downtrend on the first break of a big bearish trend like that. So maybe you take that trade. But then we bounce. We come back. We test the trend line. We bounce. There's a second entry there, but this channel is still in place. So I would not take that. It would have worked, but it's not worth risking. But you do get a close outside, move to a new high, and then you make a lower high on a 2-bar matching high. Take that. If this wasn't a 2-bar matching high, if this was just 1 tick lower, you couldn't take that because that'd just be a continuation of the trend. But because it made that 2-bar matching high, that's like a pullback. And that takes us on into the close. I didn't see anything else there I'd be willing to risk. But really strong day. Lots of second entries in there. A couple of them in both directions actually. So if every day could be like this, it would be much easier. Pretty good trading day. You got to find these trends though and understand where they're at. Use the short-term ones until you can determine the bigger ones, because you may not have found this one till 10:30 or so, whenever time that's set up. But that's how I saw it today. Really good trading day. Maybe we'll get another one like this tomorrow. We'll wait and see. But I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next